Good morning. I'm Keith Gipson, and I'm here to talk about the reproduction Coronado cannon that we made. I was a gunsmithing instructor at Trinidad State College in Trinidad, Colorado for many, many years and taught a class in the history and development of firearms. I have always been interested in the origins of firearms and antique guns and cannons. And so when I saw the magazine article where someone had found the oldest gun in America, Conquistador's cannon, I was immediately fascinated and intrigued by that. I took the article down to my friend Calvin Smith, who worked at Trinidad State College at the time. Calvin is a museumologist, archaeologist, and much interested in archaeology and history of the Southwest. And I thought he would be interested in seeing the article. Calvin had already seen it, was aware that the cannon had been found, and I told him that I thought it would be really cool if we could look at the gun and hold it in our hands. And he said, well, maybe that's possible. I know Denny. And I was much amazed. Of course, Calvin knows everyone everywhere. And after a time, we were able to arrange a meeting with Denny and were able to actually hold the cannon in my hands, which was a very special moment. And then we were able to make drawings. But first, we had to measure the gun. So we made measurements of the gun in many, many different ways, took lots of photographs of the gun, and then we made drawings. And we're not sure, maybe several people had the idea at the same time. Wouldn't it be cool if we could make one? And so we found a benefactor, Glenn Houston, who was much interested in history. And Glenn financed the project and was able to get the materials for us and support that we needed in order to make these reproductions or replicas of the original Coronado cannon. Here we have the raw materials. We bought the materials to make the guns. Instead of being in one piece, the guns would be made in several pieces, and there's a variety of reasons for that. One is my lathe isn't big enough to put the entire cannon barrel in at one time. The finished cannon, the original, is about 42 inches long. My lathe only is capable of holding something 36 inches long. And so we have here the main barrel sections, which we bought already drilled, and then the larger, shorter breech sections that we're going to assemble by threading and screwing them together. The other reason that the guns are made in multiple pieces is it's a conservation of material and conservation of machine time. The largest piece is about 3 inches in diameter. The large breech end of the cannon is just under 3 inches. If we'd made the gun barrel out of one 3-inch piece of material, it would have made more scrap. It would have taken more time to machine it to size, and it would have translated from a piece of steel that weighed 72 pounds down to one, the finished gun weighs about 40 pounds. So by using a smaller diameter for the main barrel at 2 3/4 inches in diameter, that's 12 pounds lighter. And as we'll see along the way, great amount of this material just ends up as being machining chips and lost. In fact, the materials to begin with are about 75 or 80 pounds worth of material, and the finished gun is 40 pounds. So almost half of it all ends up being machined away. So I started making the breech end of the gun first. Variety of reasons. It's a small piece, it's more complex shape, and also I wanted to machine the internal threads first and then fit that to the external threads on the main barrel, so to put them together. So we have here a few photos of that process, holding the breech end in the lathe and machining the internal uh, threads and the internal combustion chamber portion of the barrel. And then the external contours of the breech end of the barrel. Then also have, if you noticed, that breech end of the barrel, that weighed 12 pounds when we started. When we finished it was just under 7 pounds, so more than half of that, or more than 5 pounds of it, almost half of it, ended up turning into just metals, chips, and scrap. Now we're looking at the barrel, the main piece of the barrel in my lathe. And as we talked about before, we had to make the cannon in more than one piece, partly because of the size of my lathe. If you look there at the right-hand side, you'll see that the tailstock of the lathe is hanging off the end of the bed, and the piece of material we've got there has just got me maxed out as to what we can actually make. So as we go along, we can see that we're making and turning and doing some various operations. The barrel itself has 4 or 5 distinct tapered sections along the barrel, which reflect, I think, the patterns that were made to make the mold of the original gun, which was cast in one piece in bronze. These guns are made of steel, the Reproductions, partly because of expense and partly because of the practicality of the thing. The materials, if these were to be machined in bronze, would be quite prohibitively expensive. So steel is a practical solution for that. It's something that we can work with, and it's definitely strong enough for the cannons that reproduction cannons that will be fired later on, to test them and also for exhibition purposes. So here you can see the cannon being turned into some of its different steps. The front muzzle portion of the cannon barrel here has been turned and roughly polished. We're reaching up towards the breech end. Then we've turned the barrel around in the lathe. The entire front piece of the gun has been polished, rough polished, and turned. And you can see where it's ready to cut the threads. And there are the external threads on the breech end of the barrel to screw into the breech piece of the gun. So here we have a look at the hooks on the original gun. This hook was originally cast in one piece with the original barrel, but here, for a variety of reasons, we fabricate this of a separate piece, and so we see here the parts roughly shaped, cut out with a torch, and then we come along with them roughly polished and to the proper shape. And then we also have the separate piece, which is the powder pan or powder shelf, also welded, attached in the fabrication on that. This powder shelf or pan was quite a technological innovation at the time and a big step forward in gun design. It doesn't look like much today, but at the time it was a big deal. Then we finish them up and look at the parts with the holes drilled in the hook. Speculation as to what that hole is actually for, and it could be a variety of things, but the original had it, so these do too. And then the finished powder shelf or powder pan, and these are all sandblasted aluminum oxide grit to give them an even finish and get them prepped for welding onto the barrel itself. When they're welded on, we actually mill a little bit of a pocket, a little slot flat in the bottom to give a solid base to weld the hook into. And so here you can see a different view milling that little pocket on this barrel. The breech end and the forward section of the barrel are threaded together securely. The powder shelf or pan has been attached. That's back there where the clamp is holding on a piece of setup equipment to get the barrel straight and aligned properly into the milling machine. Then we weld it in place. We have the hook sitting there ready to weld, and then a view of it with the weld. It was TIG welded by a friend of mine, Dave Nolan, who is a good welder and much better welder than I am. And so he was gracious enough to take care of that for us. After the welding, the parts were shaped and contoured to match somewhat and resemble the original gun and the mold marks where the original patterns were assembled before it was cast. After that, then we took the gun over to another friend of mine, Cody Fox. Cody's got a sandblast setup where he was able to sandblast the entire gun and give it a nice even finish that we can see here in a finished view of the hook after the welds have been dressed down and it's all properly attached, and you can see the nice even finish on that. And here's the powder shelf or pan, also with the welds dressed up, cleaned up to resemble the original. And there we have the touch hole where the ignition of the main powder charge would happen. And then a view of the finished, complete gun, all sandblasted, ready to apply the final finishing to help it resemble the antique guns. So here we have another view with the browning solution, some of the first coats applied. Browning is a technique that gunsmiths have used for hundreds of years. And it basically is a controlled rusting process, and it helps protect the steel from rust, which seems rather counterintuitive. We make it rust to protect it from rust, and it gives a uniform brown color that resembles the patina of the original gun. And so we've got a couple of other views of that, the breech end with quite modeled at this point. It takes several coats and some time to get it into a nice uniform finished look. And then we've got views of the finished product after several coats of the browning solution and a little bit of magic and good luck. It looks like this. And of course, it gives a nice uniform brown that, like I said, resembles the original gun, but not exactly. And there's, one of the only ways to make something look like it's laid in the desert for 480 years is to lay it in the desert for 480 years. And of course, this is steel rather than bronze, so that the appearance is different. But uh, if you're able to see the original and the reproduction side by side, you could tell that this is not the original and it's not 480 years old, but it is a reasonable reproduction of that. And I think we achieved that pretty satisfactorily. The, uh, the reproduction replica cannons are marked because we want to be careful that they're not misconstrued as being a fake or misrepresented in some way. So on the back of the underlug, they're marked with name and date. And then in the end, what I had really wanted, and I think Denny did also when we started all of this, was to see what this thing sounds like. And so the icing on the cake was being able to actually fire the gun and hear its voice 480 years later. And you see here it mounted on a very authentic sawhorse sort of a mount with a piece of baling wire, but it makes a very pleasing resounding boom and a rather impressive muzzle flash, as you can see from that. So thank you for listening, and I hope that I've been able to shed a little insight on the making of the reproduction guns, and hope it's been enjoyable for you. Thank you.